Planet Mission Part 1 by David Claiborne, as read by the author. New chapters every Monday. The full novel is available on Amazon.com and other online retailers. Links in the description. Chapter 34. From Where They Came. By the time the sun set that evening, the colonists working together with the remaining missionaries and survivors had a small camp set up for the injured and homeless. A train of Arcuda arrived with fresh produce from the valley where the city had been. Jonathan was right. They moved swiftly and could carry a great burden. The colonists brought in machinery to aid the recovery. The cleanup was slow at first, but once they got going, it gained momentum. They worked until the sun went down and then continued working into the night under the light of the city and flyers that shined spotlights on the ground. By then they had a small tent city arranged neatly on the plains between the spaceport and city, complete with an open-air mess. The surviving workers proved resourceful. They gathered what they could and constructed benches and seats. A medical shelter was set up, although it was mostly a place of comfort. The Viti fruit did its miraculous work, but the need was great and the fruit available in the immediate vicinity quickly became scarce. Junebug went out with teams to collect more, a tricky task of timing since the fruit would not keep for long. The injured came and ate and were healed. The more serious cases lay down and rested. Some succumbed to their injuries. No one seemed to want to broach the necessity of digging graves, let alone how they would do so on a large scale. The dead were laid on the other side of the medical shelter as they found them, a larger number than anyone cared to comprehend. A few survivors emerged from the destruction unhurt but thirsty and hungry. Most had injuries, some of them grave. Waters walked along the line of bodies, some covered with jackets or spare warming blankets, although most were not. They simply could not produce or procure the materials fast enough. He stopped in front of a woman's body. Alice was unmistakable, dressed head to toe in a white skirt and blouse. Her hair still brushed perfectly straight and topped with a cap despite everything. Work continued at all hours. They rested when they could, sometimes where they sat in their exhaustion. Polus Station passed overhead every 90 minutes like a clock, no more than a tiny light in distant sky, but there just the same. "Why haven't they sent help down?" some asked. "There's no place to land, and no way to take off again," was always the answer. "So we're on our own." We're on our own. "I'm ready for authorization to take the patrol ships to the surface, Interim Director Shepard. People died and are dying," Bo said. "The last time we spoke, your priority was to arrest the colonists you believed responsible," Interim Director Shepard said. "And I still believe that's important, but I've had time to think about what you said after we spoke last, and you were right. The people need help first. The colonists aren't going anywhere." Bo did have time to think. Not about the people he had made to suffer, though. The most advantageous persona was the humanitarian one for now. The bringer of justice could come later. The delay while Interim Director Shepard sought approval from the President had given him more time to prepare, and he was grateful for it. "In any case, you will have your authorization. It is as we discussed, however. Your priority is to bring aid to those suffering on the surface. You may further the investigation as opportunity permits, but aid and comfort are your top priorities." "Understood." "Do you have pilots available?" "Station police and security have pilots." "I see from the manifest that Captain Jackson is currently at the station. He's a Navy veteran. That would play well for the administration." Bo cringed a little, but Shepard was right. It would look good for a veteran to be a part of the rescue operation. However, Jackson knew Molly and the other missionaries and would be inclined to sympathize. Furthermore, Bo simply did not like him. Bo took a chance. "I have reason to believe that Captain Jackson has sympathies toward the colonists and may not be the greatest aid in the investigation, and—" "What is it, Missionary Lee?" This was pushing it, but might be effective. "We do not work well together, Interim Director. He was our captain on the flight out, and he was at odds frequently with the missionaries. He also knows the missionaries who need to be arrested, which may hinder the investigation. I feel it would be best to utilize a station pilot who is unaffiliated with the matter." "Very well, Missionary Lee. Use your judgment." "Success." "Thank you, Interim Director. Will you be sending me official authorization?" Of course, you should receive it shortly. How is President Stannisdottir? How is the First Lady? The President is as well as a President can be. The First Lady sends her regards. That is a good sign. I will proceed immediately. Take care, Interim Director. They finished the call and Bo pulled a case from under his bunk. He opened it. It was empty save for 3 depressions left by the lance. On his way out, he dropped the case into a garbage chute to be compressed and molecularized beyond recognition. Bo's phone beeped as the authorization from the administration came through. He scrolled down through paragraphs of language detailing his role in the relief and rescue efforts. Then he found it. Missionary Bo Lee is also authorized to investigate and apprehend alleged suspects using the force he deems necessary as concerns the collapse of the Polus IV space elevator. There was no mention of lethal force, but it was also not mentioned. It did not matter, though. The authorization included activation codes for the patrol ship's railguns. Once the official administration report of the incident had been published, all potential deaths would be buried as statistics. Authorization received at last, Bo walked the kilometer or so down the helix to the security station. There sat a civil servant position, dressed in all white. It was Tegan. Missionary Lee, it's a pleasure to see you again. How may I assist you tonight? She said. Bo flicked the authorization from his phone to hers. As you can see, the administration has authorized me to requisition the station's patrol ships along with pilots to apprehend the criminals responsible for the collapse of the space elevator. Oh no, she said. You know who is responsible already? Thank you, Tegan. You will be the perfect vector to spread the idea that colonists have once again brought down a space elevator. Stannisdottir's failure to protect the administration's deep space projects will not end her presidency, but it will cast the first seeds of doubt and open the door for me to step in. When the time is right, the First Lady will denounce her and join my cause. In a few years, I will be president. It all starts here, dear Tegan, civil servant position on Polus Station. I'm afraid it looks like once again colonists have managed to bring down a space elevator. It's Alpha Centauri B again, she said. Exactly right, Tegan. You're very bright for making that connection. She looked surprised at the flattery, but also pleased. I'll need the patrol ships readied as soon as possible. Are there pilots available? Most of the officer position pilots have gone home for the night. Perhaps you'd consider asking a commercial or veteran pilot. I'm afraid I must stick to the requirements of the authorization, which specifically requires officer position pilots. Of course. We must all follow the rules and regulations. They are what hold our society together, after all. I will reach out for you. An hour later, the pilot's commander, who introduced himself only as Officer Carmichael, arrived. His private recreation had obviously been interrupted. He smelled of alcohol, and his uniform was wrinkly as if it had been retrieved from a hamper. No matter. The alcohol will make him more pliable. He only needs to not crash, Bo thought to himself. Thank you, Officer Carmichael. I apologize for calling you in during off-duty hours, but we have an emergency authorization from the administration that needs immediate attention. I need your help. We are to pilot the station's patrol ships down to the surface and apprehend those responsible for the space elevator's collapse. You will also be aiding those who were injured in the space elevator's collapse, Tegan added. We will also bring supplies and aid to those in need below. Your service in the matter will, I'm sure, not go unrecognized. Officer Carmichael was not amused at having his off-duty hours interrupted. We get 1.5 time for working during off-duty hours. I will be sure to submit the requisite forms, Commander, Tegan responded. Make sure that you do, Carmichael said. And you, let's get this straight. We're the pilots, I'm the commander. You let me know where we need to go, but I'm the one who decides how we get there. I've seen your types before, all bluff and fluff and no buff, standing behind titles and procedures before the action, then hiding behind desks and better men once things get tough. When we're flying, I'll make the decisions. You sit tight. We'll get where we need to go. Of course, Commander, Bo said, completely compliant. They boarded a patrol ship through a hatch in the roof. Is this it? Bo asked. He knew its capacity, but it seemed even smaller now that he was inside. It had seating for no more than 4. A metal mesh separated the pilot and co-pilot from the cargo area in the back where there were only 2 seats. Bo could just stand if he hunched his head over. You wanted to use the patrol ships, this is what we got, Carmichael said, taking note of Beau's unspoken appraisal of his ship. Big ships take a lot of energy to move. Small ships are more efficient for getting on and off planet. You want to bring supplies, so we should take out the seats too. Give me a hand. If we take the seats out, you're going to have to sit up front with me. If we leave in a seat or two, we fit less supplies. Beau looked over the interior of the ship for a moment. Both sides of the ship had sliding door hatches for ease of access on the planet. Can you open these doors from the back? Beau asked. They're locked out when we're transporting alleged criminals, Carmichael said, but I can deactivate the locks, seeing as this is a humanitarian mission. Leave one of the seats, Beau said. I'll sit in the back. Flying is more comfortable if you can see out the front, Carmichael said. I'll sit in the back. All right, missionary, you'll sit in the back. Come out for a second. I'll pass the seat up to you. Where are the other patrol ships? Beau asked. On other helixes. Don't worry, my guys will have them ready. We'll rendezvous before penetrating the atmosphere. Carmichael removed a seat and passed it up through the hatch to Beau just as Tegan arrived with worker positions pushing carts. They passed crates and boxes down through the hatch. This is what we were able to gather on short notice, she said. It's mostly first-line medical supplies for trauma care and rations. Given more time, I should be able to provide more and higher quality supplies. Missionary Lee, I want to thank you for involving me in this. I feel so proud to have the opportunity to help those suffering down below. What? Yes, of course, Beau said, preoccupied with the space the supplies took up in the ship. There would be room only for him and perhaps one other person, but he could say nothing about it. Your assistance in the matter is greatly appreciated, Tegan. I'll be sure to make note of it when I make my reports. Thank you, but that's not what I mean. I'm just glad to be able to help in some small way, she said. Right, of course that's what you meant. Even so, good work deserves its reward, Beau said. You going to help with this stuff or what? Carmichael called from inside the ship. I hope to return to the station soon, Tegan. Please have a team of officer positions ready for me when I do, Beau said as he dropped down through the hatch. Of course, Tegan replied. It took nearly an hour to finish loading the supplies and perform the pre-flight checks. With each passing minute, Beau grew more impatient. Just when it seemed that they had run out of space, Carmichael or one of the workers would suggest that they rearrange some things to make more room. I can assure you, missionary, that overtime pay is not a factor in our decision-making process, Carmichael replied with a smirk when Beau protested. At last they finished loading and readying the patrol ship. They closed the hatch. Carmichael dropped through a forward hatch into the cockpit. Helmet and buckles, he said. Beau donned a helmet, took his seat, and fastened the harness. I hated our drop to the moon, he said. How rough is it going to be? Smooth as silk and twice as fine, came Carmichael's reply as he released the docking clamp, and a hiss signaled that the thrusters were pushing them away from the station. Are you having fun with me? Beau said. I would never, Carmichael said. Thrusters angled the ship toward the moon below, the gas giant Polus itself looming large at their side. 2 other patrol ships joined the formation within minutes. Carmichael moved the throttle forward and the ship immediately accelerated and pushed Beau back into his seat. He was uncomfortable for a few moments while they gained speed, and then heard the beginnings of a gentle roar. He saw the glow of heat licking the outside of the ship as they entered the atmosphere, but the descent was smooth, like they were surfing, with none of the shaking and vibration of a dropship. Why don't we all use these ships? Beau asked. Too expensive, Carmichael said. There's a reason the station only has 3, and everything else moves with shuttles and dropships. Once they clean up and get the space elevator going again, they'll probably move them somewhere else. Who? Beau asked. The administration. They'll put her somewhere they think she'll be of more use. I'll probably go with her. There's no use for pilots on a station with no ships. I see, Beau said. Commander, is it safe for me to unbuckle? Some of the cargo is shifting around a bit back here, and I want to tighten it down. Feel how smooth she is? Go right ahead, Carmichael said. Commander, do you mind if I tell you exactly what's going on here? Beau asked. Tommy made good use of the flyer that night. He ferried colonists and supplies, and transported the injured when someone was recovered from the rubble. He could never carry enough people at a time, though. Less if someone needed to lie down, and there were always more being uncovered. The sun was setting, and the low light of dusk was taking over. A low cloud bank typical of the plains settled in. He just finished dropping someone off when a glow in the clouds above indicated an object entering the atmosphere. It looks like something's coming down. Maybe the station is sending help. I'm going to go check it out, he said to Junebug. Okay, replied Junebug. Let us know what you find. It's probably your mom coming to check on you, Tommy said. Don't even joke about that, Junebug said. When was the last time you called her? Tommy asked, laughing. Not waiting for Junebug's response, Tommy jumped in the flyer and angled it up toward the descending glow, which faded a few moments later. Carmichael and Bo had reached an understanding. Tell me again, Commander Carmichael, just so that I'm sure you understand the seriousness of the situation, Bo said. The colonists are responsible for bringing the space elevator down. We need to deal with them before we can safely deliver the supplies and help the worker positions. You, me, and my pilots are acting with the full authority of the administration, Carmichael said. Is that about the long and short of it? I think we have an understanding, Bo said. He anchored himself to the patrol ship's frame with a carabiner. Now, if you will please release the door lock so I can open the side door. Thank you, he said, and slid the port side door open. The cabin filled instantly with noise, but little wind thanks to the streamlined shape of the ship. They could see nothing, however, as they descended through the cloud. This truly is a fantastic machine, Commander, he said. You could have just told me we were going after terrorists, Carmichael said. Hell, I might even have volunteered. That could be an offensive word, Bo said. Whatever you say, let's just get these guys. Tommy hovered just below the cloud bank. He pulled out his phone and called Junebug. I don't see anything yet, he said. Even as he spoke, a patrol ship descended through the cloud directly above him. Shit, Tommy said. He dropped his phone, banked the flyer, and slammed the throttle forward. The ship just missed him. A second ship descended beyond the first, and then a third passed through the clouds directly into his path. On the ground, Junebug dropped his phone. There was an explosion, and a second later the sound reached them on the ground. Pieces of machinery fell out of the sky onto the plains in the distance, followed by the remains of Tommy's flyer as it slammed into the ground a mile away with a thud. Jesus, what is that? Carmichael said. As they descended through the clouds, the spires of the city towered into the clouds in front of them, high beyond their sight, and captured their attention. The light from the city lit the underside of the cloud bank. Bo shook his head, wiped his eyes, and looked again in disbelief. It's the city, but it can't be. At that moment, he knew the administration would never be able to resettle these colonists. Look out! Carmichael shouted into the radio as one of the colonist flyers veered close to them. A third patrol ship descended through the clouds and struck the flyer. A fireball engulfed both ships. The patrol ship rocked as its pilot struggled to regain control. Engines sheared off the flyer and it went tumbling to the ground, though the patrol ship steadied itself soon enough. You all right, officer? Carmichael asked. I've got it, sir, came the reply. I'll need a new paint job, but all systems are good. Are they attacking us? Lee, let's go get these sons of bitches, Carmichael said, angry, and pushed the nose of the patrol ship down. Waters, Junebug, and Molly ran in the direction of the crash. Several of the colonists followed them, but before they had gone a few yards, a fountain of rock and dirt shot into the air, blocking their path as a shot from the patrol ship's railgun left a deep crater in the ground. The patrol ships descended hard behind the shot and almost touched the ground where they hovered in front of them. The wash from the engines sent their clothing and hair flapping and kicked dust into their eyes. The tents swayed in the wind. In one of the patrol ship's doors stood a figure. The figure took off his helmet. They saw Bo, who looked out and saw Waters standing there with Molly clinging to his arm, and Junebug at his side surrounded by colonists. His fury rose. Bo, Waters shouted. Waters ran forward but stopped short as another shot from a patrol ship sent up a plume of earth in front of him. Bo, what are you doing? You ask me that? Bo shouted. You dare ask me that? You, standing there amid terrorists with her, have the audacity to ask me what I'm doing? Bo, I don't understand, Waters said. He gestured plaintively and walked forward. He stopped as the patrol ships angled towards him. Tommy's flyer got hit. Please, we have to go help him. Here you are, aiding them, Bo shouted, straining to be heard above the sound of the engines. How could you betray us like this? How could you side with them? Help them do something like this, he said with a gesture to the wreckage of the space elevator. How could you abandon everything our mission stood for? Everything we as missionaries were supposed to bring to these people. It doesn't matter, though. I know what needs to be done. The old mission is finished. Now begins a new mission. I'm fortunate, really I am, to be here, to be the one who gets to administer the first shot of justice." He raised a hand to Carmichael, who angled the ship towards Molly and the others. She stepped back and clutched her hands together. "No!" Waters shouted and stepped in front of her with his arms wide. "No, Bo, it was my fault. I'm the one responsible for this. For all this, I take responsibility." "Alex, no!" Molly cried. Waters turned to her. "I love you," he said. "Thank you for everything. Jonathan, thank you. Tell the mayor thank you." He turned and, arms outstretched, walked toward the patrol ships. "I'm the one responsible, Bo. I let the APOC go. I'm the one responsible for Jazzy's death. Everyone else is innocent. Let them go. Take me." "Jazzy's dead?" Bo said. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Waters said. "And you're responsible?" "I am. I let the APOC go, and the APOC killed her. It's my fault. I'm sorry." Waters stopped a few yards from the patrol ship. He had to strain against the force of the engines. The other ships kept their guns trained on him. Bo's eyes carried a severe look. He considered Waters, considered what his admission could mean for him, for the mission. At last Bo signaled to Carmichael, and the patrol ships relaxed their aim. "All right, Alex. You're responsible. Get in." "No!" Molly shouted. Waters turned and smiled at her. "It's all right. This is just." Waters pushed forward to the open door. Bo grabbed him by the collar and pulled him inside. Bo slid the door closed, and the patrol ship ascended into the sky. The other ships soon followed. Molly, Junebuck, Jonathan, and the other colonists stared after them. The sun set below the horizon, and the glow of Vides filled the plains. Their eyes followed the patrol ships into the sky, through the clouds, back into space from where they came. The End, Part 1. To be continued in Planet Mission, Part 2. If you enjoyed this book, please consider leaving a review on Amazon.com or your preferred online retailer.